So good morning, and I'm so glad to be here to talk with you today about early childhood. So one of the interesting things about the job that I have in the governor's office is that I often get asked to come and speak with groups of people around early childhood with the task of, why don't you bring everybody up to date what's happening in early childhood on a federal and a state level? Okay, how much time do you have for me? 20 minutes. So we're going to have a whirlwind tour here of what's going on federally and in our state around early childhood education and the trends that we see out there and how that might affect you in the work that you're doing every day with kids and families. So I'm going to start out by talking, let's see. There we go. But just saying a word or two about where early childhood is. And I like to take the temperature about the thinking about early childhood education by talking to my siblings. I think probably a lot of us do that, right? They have, we're all true believers. We know that early childhood matters. We know that it's so important for the growth and development of kids and for their lifelong success rates and all of that. But those lay folks that are in our families, they may not really know all that much about it. So over the years, I've been taking the temperature of my siblings about the whole issue of early childhood education. And my focus my entire career has been on young kids and families in poverty and how early childhood education can help support their chances in life. And so over the years, it went from, well, Theresa, you're just the do-gooder of the family and the bleeding heart, and of course you believe that, to, well, no, I'm really starting to see that's important, but what the heck, if you help them when they're at early childhood, you're just going to have to keep helping their whole life, and everything like that. Can't really make that much of a difference. But I have to tell you, and I don't know whether you experience this in your conversations with family members and others in your communities, but there has been a sea change in the last couple of years. We have won the battle of convincing people that early childhood is an important part of young kids' lives and development, and that what happens in the early years really does matter for kids' lifelong development. When I talk to my siblings now and I talk about early childhood education, it really is important. They're like, oh yeah, it's really important. Every kid needs to have that. That's critical. I can't believe we don't have that in our country. We have won the battle for the public hearts and minds about the importance of this. We have not won the battle about actually providing it to the kids and the families who need it, right? So I just want to show you a little bit about, there's been a lot of data that's been coming out, polling that they've been doing of folks across the country, across the political spectrum, red states, blue states, wherever you look. How are people thinking about early childhood education and how important it is to voters? And so you have a little graphic here if you can't read it. It says voters believe that early childhood education is even more important than reducing taxes. And they've come up with a lot of these different graphics and ranking of the importance of different issues for voters. And early childhood education, again and again, is showing these really, really striking, strong results of how important it is to folks and how much people support giving young children a strong start in life. And that's whether you're talking about preschool or the importance of childcare to be provided to families and things like that. It's consistent. That message is out there. We won the war. Yes, it's important. And so there's a lot that's been going on at the federal side of being able to make a difference on that. So we've had the Early Learning Challenge Grant, which our state is one of the 20 states that have received this grant to help us build our early childhood system. It was a $1 billion investment of the federal government in these Early Learning Challenge grants to help build up the system. We have the Strong Start for America's Children Act, which is this is the first round of the president saying in his State of the Union address a couple of times, we need to provide preschool to every child in America, every 4-year-old in America. And he said that twice. There's a legislation proposed. This isn't really going to pass right now, but once that genie is out of the bottle, once we are really talking about this at a federal level, you can bet that we are going to be moving towards this over time in our country. So we have a bill that would provide $75 billion worth of federal investment in funding for preschool for 4-year-olds over a 10-year period. So this year we have the preschool development grants that were issued by the federal Departments of Education and Health and Human Services jointly. It's a down payment on that preschool expansion. So this was a grant of $250 million that's being competitively bid out right now. Our state put in an application. I'll tell you a little bit about later in the presentation. And I happen to know that they just wrapped up today scoring all those applications, so everybody keep your fingers crossed for Illinois. Also this summer we had the Early Head Start Child Care Partnerships, which were a grant competition directly from the federal government to local communities. Many of your communities may have participated in this. Many of you may have worked hand in hand with your Head Start providers in your community and child care providers. The idea behind this grant was to raise the quality of infant-toddler child care for birth to 3-year-olds across the country for children in poverty, to really raise up the quality of what is some abysmal typically infant-toddler child care that we provide in our country. And one that I didn't put on the list here, but in a couple of days, the U.S. Senate is scheduled to vote on the child care block grant reauthorization. And this will be a huge change in the way we think about child care in our country and the way that we pay for it. From a time when child care really was just part of welfare to work. Well, if we're going to make women go to work when they have young children, we're going to have to do something to make sure that their children are safe, and we're going to have to provide some subsidy to help do that, to a much more focused on child development and quality of child care program for the Child Care Development Block Grant. And that is going to lead to many changes yet to be figured out in our state for how we run our child care program here, as well as it will be for states across the country. So there is a lot going on at the federal level, a lot of interest in this, a lot of momentum behind the early childhood education, going kind of with some people really focusing on, well, let's just go, yes, we got kindergarten pretty much across the board, now let's get to 4-year-olds. And once we get to 4-year-olds, we can start thinking even younger. And then other people saying, no, we need to think about the entire birth to 5 spectrum altogether. All of that time period really matters, and so much of development happens in those birth to 3 years. We need to be paying attention to that. Illinois has always fallen into that latter. It really is all about birth to 5 altogether camp, but both camps are working really hard, and that's all to the good because that means more and more resources flowing to the early years. But let's make no mistake, as much as we've accomplished, as far as we come, we are incredibly behind the rest of the world. This graphic, I know you cannot see it all that well because it's got so many different countries on there. It's such a big chart here. But if you, this is a chart of the percentage of 3-year-olds who are enrolled in early education in all of the different countries that are part of what I'd say the other OECD, the Organization for Economic. Actually, I have no idea what OECD stands for, but it's all the developed countries in the world. But the U.S. is far behind the rest of the world. That big yellow arrow is pointing to where the U.S. fits on this. And this is using all sources of funding, public and private sources of funding. What percentage of your 3-year-olds are enrolled in early childhood education? So the U.S. is sitting there somewhere below 40%. And you can see that I don't know if this will show up now, but you can see that countries, Belgium, France, Denmark, Iceland, Spain, Norway, United Kingdom, all of them are well above 90%. And we have seen almost no growth in the last 7 years, according to this chart, in the percentage of 3-year-olds who are enrolled in early childhood education, where countries like Slovenia and Portugal and Israel have had huge growth in the number of 3-year-olds. So we are in the company of Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico are the countries that are most similar to us in their provision of early childhood education. Most of the companies that we are competing against in the world have long ago seen the importance of early childhood education and care, and they have invested in it in their country, and they have much, much greater participation rates than we do in our country. We have a long way to go. But I show this to you to say that we're riding a bit of an inevitable wave. This is going to come to pass. We are going to be building out our early childhood education system. We have to catch up to the rest of the world. Sadly, Illinois is not just behind the rest of the world, or the U.S. not just behind the rest of the world. Illinois is behind most other states in providing early care and education to its young children. We have been long known as a leader for our thinking about this. We're great thinkers about it. We're great at conceiving it and saying what it is that we need to do. We're really great at thinking about this as a birth to 5 system. I think we may be better than any other state about that. But the proof is in the pudding. Have we actually provided these services to most of our children children. So on this map here, the darker the red, the more 4-year-olds are enrolled in preschool education. This is specifically state or federally funded preschool education. And so we are 18th in the number of 4-year-olds that are served. We're still number 4 in the number of 3-year-olds that are served, but unfortunately that's down from being number 1 for many, many years. Other states have now passed us by, even in the serving of 3-year-olds. So you can see that we have a long way to go in terms of how many kids we serve. The darkest red states that you'll see here are serving 61 to 80% of all of their 4-year-olds, where we are in the category of where we serve more like 20 to 30%. So again, we are far behind where we need to be. So what are we doing about it? What are some of the initiatives that we have in place? Raina alluded to the fact that we need to work on having more intensive services for the children who are at highest need. What we know from our Preschool for All program is that our standards are very high, the services we provide are quite excellent, and yet they are not enough to meet the needs of many of the young children and families that we serve. Many young children and families really do need a full-day program, and one that has very intensive wraparound comprehensive services for the families that provide the social services, health needs, all of these kind of services that make up the total package for early childhood to make the real difference for young kids and families. So as we had this opportunity come our way, the preschool development grants, preschool expansion grant that the federal government released, and we designed our response to it. We designed it with this in mind, thinking about what would we do differently if we were able, with a new funding stream, even a small one, to develop services for those kids and families who are most in need, those that have multiple risk factors, many things that are impediments to their success and need a lot of support and help in their early childhood years to be able to be successful when they reach kindergarten and beyond. So we developed our proposal. It's $20 million per year for 4 years of federal money that we were able to apply for. As we designed our proposal, we designed it with our vision in mind of a birth to 5 system, and we put in there a plan for $120 million worth of additional state investment in this program over that 4-year period as part of an overall strategy to continue to grow our early childhood block grant by $50 million a year over year, and to providing this full spectrum of birth through kindergarten services for young kids. Our preschool expansion grant focuses on providing full-day, high-quality preschool and comprehensive services, again, to 4-year-olds and their families with the highest needs, within a birth to 3rd grade system of comprehensive support. And so it really is the preschool development grant application that we developed is available on our website at the OECD's website, Governor's Office of Early Childhood Development. And I encourage you to read it, take a look at it, look at what it is that we put together. Because it's important to know that win or lose for this grant, this is what we have seen is what we need to do and what we need to develop. Our preschool development grant application was approved by our full Early Learning Council as well as by the Illinois State Board of Education as representing the direction that we need to go in terms of our early childhood services in the state. So our priorities as a state really are about, by 2021, making sure that 80% of all children are fully ready for kindergarten, and we picked that target because that's about 5 years after we should have gotten to pretty well full implementation across the state of kids, our kindergarten individual development survey, so that we would have that kind of data with a baseline and then to be able to grow towards this 80% mark. We know that there are many factors that impinge upon that success and of helping kids be ready to succeed when they walk in the door at kindergarten. Things like economic supports for families, healthcare, special education, basic community services and safety, child welfare, mental health services, all of those are critically important. But our strategic focus over these years that we have the Early Childhood or the Early Learning Challenge grant, and as we're rolling out our quality rating and improvement system, is on focusing on making sure that children with high needs, which is basically defined as kids below 200% of the federal poverty level or who otherwise have very significant risk factors, that of those kids, at least 65% of them have at least 1 year of high quality early learning services, 40% have at least 2 years, and 10% having 5 full years. Again, emphasizing the birth to 5 approach that we are taking in our state. We define that participating in a high quality early learning program is one that is at the gold circle of quality within our within our quality rating improvement system in Accelerate. So, and we have a goal not just for our high needs kids, but as Rainey was talking about, it really is about looking at what targeted services do you need to provide to those kids who are most in need, and what do you need to make sure all children have and is available to all kids in our society. So we have here as part of our goal as well that at least half of all licensed child care centers across our state will achieve above the license circle in the quality rating and improvement system, and at least 25% of them achieving the gold circle of quality. These are very aggressive goals that we're working very hard to accomplish across our state. So our strategic emphasis as we build towards these goals, as we work towards accomplishing all the things that are in this green circle, is on emphasizing increasing access to the highly intensive and effective services for the most at-risk children, those children with multiple high needs characteristics, so multiple risk factors, typically in addition to being low income. So what we're trying to do with the Early Learning Challenge Grant resources, and as we build our quality rating and improvement system, is go from what we have had, which is essentially multiple independent early childhood systems. We have our Early Childhood Block Grant and all of the services that have been built out through Preschool for All and Prevention Initiative. We have our child care system and the child care funding and all the supports and quality supports that go along with child care funded through the Illinois Department of Human Services. And we have our Head Start system, which kind of bypasses the state altogether and goes directly from federal to local, provides a lot of programming resources as well as a lot of technical assistance and supports to all of those. So we're working to move from having these independent systems to having a system that all works together, connecting those dots, bringing them all together, and emphasizing that early childhood, high quality early childhood care and education can happen in a lot of different settings. It can happen in a child care center. It can happen in a Head Start program. It can happen in a school building, in a Preschool for All program. All of these are just different ways that you can deliver what it can be high quality early childhood care and education that young kids and families need to build their chances for success in life. And so the Office for Early Childhood Development sits at the nexus of all of those different systems and helps knit them together and create a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. The foundation of the work that we're doing is our quality rating and improvement system. Accelerate Illinois is designed to be a system where I like to say gold means gold. So we have a single set of standards that cover all of our systems, Head Start, Preschool for All, child care programs, and we have standards that are the same across all of that system, different ways that people can show they're meeting those standards. But if you have a program in your community, Rainey was talking about how we need to be responsible for what's beyond our own doors and beyond our own walls in our communities. All of the different programs that young kids and families may be engaging in before they come to your school as kindergartners. QRIS really helps you with that because it helps you know and recognize what is the quality of those different services that young kids and families are accessing out in your community. So if you have a child care center in your community that is a gold circle quality program, you don't need to be worrying whether kids are getting high quality education in that setting. You don't need to be thinking, oh, they shouldn't be there, they need to be in my program because I'm going to be able to teach them. No, if that's a gold circle of quality program, they're going to be receiving high quality early education at that program. Excuse me. As I said, single set of standards and multiple forms of evidence. So Accelerate is designed to recognize that programs have different ways that they show this quality. So it will be a little bit different depending on the program that you're in, how it is that you demonstrate you're meeting these standards. Preschool for All generally does it through the monitoring visits that NLU does with your programs. But rest assured that the child care center down the street that is demonstrating to us that they're meeting these standards is also going through a similarly rigorous process and providing that kind of evidence. And the Head Start program is providing a very rigorous process of demonstrating that they are meeting the standards of Accelerate. Again, gold means gold. So what's coming next and what do we need to be focusing on? Well, it's not enough to provide access to early care and education. It needs to be high quality. And we are at a moment of sea change, not just in people recognizing the value of early childhood education, but for the field itself to understand what does it actually mean to do high quality early care and education, and what does it mean to teach young children in those preschool years. And what does it mean to do developmentally appropriate, not just practice, but instruction? What does instruction really look like in the preschool years, and how can we sharpen that? Because the data is not great out there. The data is not great about the quality of instruction that we are generally providing in early childhood programs, even programs with highly qualified staff with all the quality features one would expect to see. We know from our data across the country that the actual instruction that's happening in most of those programs and most of those classrooms is not enough to support the development, particularly of young kids who are at risk. So what are we doing about that? Well, as part of our Race to Top Early Learning Challenge grant, we have provided a $3.6 million grant to the Ounce of Prevention Fund to help support preschool instruction across our state and in your programs. So intensive supports, and what we're really focusing on here is the development of embedded professional development and professional learning communities, helping teachers to work together and their instructional leaders to work with them to focus on their practice, develop their practice, and make the changes that they need to make to strengthen their instruction in their classroom. So we're first be focusing on programs that need to move from silver to gold, but really this is a system designed to strengthen instruction across the board in our early childhood programs. I really encourage you to stop by the resource tables, to seek out somebody from the Ounce of Prevention Fund that's here today. I know all these providers are here today, to learn more about this program and how you can get involved and how your instructional leadership in your program can get trained on these instructional supports to be able to increase the quality of your program. We also have supports for awards of excellence. So it's part of our quality rating and improvement system. Gold means gold, and gold ain't enough. Right? Gold is not enough to make the difference in the development of the most at-risk young kids. And so every program needs to be focusing on continuous quality improvement. The awards of excellence are designed to help you focus on specific parts of your program and build them to a level of excellence that you need to really make the difference in the lives of young kids and their families. So we'll be working on a pilot wave of award application processes in late winter for these awards of excellence, but right now, the support systems that we have contracted with contractors across the state to help provide supports for these awards of excellence are getting ramped up, and you should be thinking in your program, where do you want to focus? If you have reached the gold circle of quality already, what's next for you? Where do you want to be focusing your energy on improving your instruction within the classroom? Is it on making sure that you have culturally and linguistically appropriate practice in your program? Is it on making sure you have high quality inclusion of children with special needs? Or is it on family and community engagement where you really want to put your focus? Where do you want to make your next leap? Think about that, and think about what award of excellence you're going to be trying to pursue in your program. So I just want to finish by saying, it's a big lift for us all. It's a hard climb that we're all on together here, but all that we do in state government, all that we might do in the ISBE offices, in the governor's office, in Department of Human Services, or in the federal region for Head Start, all that we do doesn't make a bit of difference to young kids and families unless it's translated into real action by you and the people that you work with out in the field and the work that you're doing every day. So on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you for all that you're doing to help our youngest kids and their families to grow and to develop. And now I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Cindy Zumwalt, who's going to talk more specifics about all that's happening in your specific part of the world of early care and education in early childhood and preschool for all programs. So thank you.